So the basic building blocks that compose the bedrock of the prison that is constructed around your mind consist of many, many tiny bits of conceptual mass that combine to form dense conceptualizations that become manifest as a belief that the mental state is but a byproduct of physicality. This is a learned belief that is so ingrained into the psyche of consciousness that there isn't even a need to teach this description. It has become the foundation upon which all subsequent inquiries and explanations about reality are formulated. And this is exactly why all these inquiries and explanations are going to be false, no matter what the different specifics might be. Rule of thumb: if you want to ensure that someone will never arrive at the truth, ensure that they begin with a false premise that is accepted without question as a default axiom. Once this is accomplished, you can be sure that they will never find the truth, unless they somehow find their way back to questioning the premise. And this can usually be avoided by diversions, distractions, and controlling both sides of the arguments that are taking place, of which both are based on the false postulation. In other words, just sit back and let them endlessly argue both sides of a faultily pointless argument. And if anyone even shows a hint at questioning the false premise, distract and divert them with fear or excitement of some kind. Always encourage confirmation bias. And don't be shy about using an overabundance of sophistactics and red herrings. And this is exactly what has happened to human beings in this current paradigm. Atheism versus theism, it doesn't matter. Physical versus metaphysical, it doesn't matter. The false premise at the root of all these arguments is that reality is an objective medium, that is, existing independently of the mind. And there is no way for you to argue against this, as your mind awareness is the only real sure thing you have that is undeniably self-evidently true, that which is experiential, clear, ever-present, and already the case firsthand, before any such ideas as a mind-independent reality can even be considered. Whereas objectivity is a leap of faith, speculative at best, and based on many assumptions that attempt to externalize projections into having some kind of separate existence of their own. This is commonly called delusion, because it doesn't recognize a mirage as a mirage. Delusion is a state of mind that is being fooled, tricked into investment into the trappings of an illusion. The interconnectivity of reality and the mind has been explored for thousands of years by a select few and has been most certainly found to be the case empirically, whereas objectivity is merely an intellectual theory based on a false hypothesis. And you will notice that any argument, any speculation, any assumption, any belief, any opinion, any observation, any measurement, any ideological proposition, all begin with I. They may try to refute the interconnectivity of reality and the mind, but cannot do so without the context of a mind. So you're gonna hear, I argue that, or it is my speculation that, or I put forth the hypothesis that, or I believe that, or it is my opinion that, or based on observations it is seen that, or I have taken a measurement and found that, or it is my idea that. So you see, they cannot put forth a single argument or theory that isn't rooted first in a subjective context. And yet, they want to ultimately infer that the subjective context is somehow a secondary offshoot of some objective framework. I would posit that objectivity is complete and utter fantasy, as neither one of the main commonly known held definitions of it are true. Objective, as in of a person or their judgment, not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts, is not true, because there is no such thing as a subject that is not influenced by their own innate bias. People just pretend that this is the case to circumvent the cognitive dissonance that arises from being a biased subject put in a position of having to make an unbiased judgment. And then objective, as in not dependent on the mind for existence, actual, which is also bullshit, as was alluded to earlier and continuing on henceforth. About the only accurate definition of the word objective is a thing aimed at or sought, a goal. Like my current objective of deconstructing objectivity. So this is why, until you have flipped the script on the old description of reality, you really don't have anything all that relevant to add to philosophical discourse concerning the nature of existence. If you can't even get the initial foundation of the truth right, nothing you postulate or propose will have any real truth or value. If we have too much of an intense focus on dream narrative, or on how the superficial appearances arrange themselves, it is conducive towards not recognizing the individual as part of the dream. This is how people can direct their awareness past their own awareness and come up with an ass-backwards conclusion that their own awareness is a byproduct of what their awareness is aware of, which is so profoundly off course it's perplexingly absurd. Do I need to run through all the possible arguments built upon the false premise and deconstruct them all one by one? No, I don't. Even though I still may in future videos. Because despite the redundant process of deconstructing one extraneous inventory item after another, there's still always another. Right? And it doesn't matter how many times it's gone over again and again. There's always another superficial appearance. No, it's illusion. Yeah, but what about another superficial appearance? And what about another superficial appearance? And what about another superficial appearance? point blank. The second you point outwards, towards projected perceptibles, and open your mouth to speak about it with some externalized supposition, you're already wrong. And this is why science and religion get it wrong every time. This is why there are so many holes and missing pieces and information that doesn't add up, or contradictions that seem to defy this or that. They are both starting from a false default assumption about reality, which involve the suggestion that some externally existing agency manifested reality. There is no God out there that magically created a universe. Nor was there a tremendous explosion out there, aka the Big Bang, that magically created a universe. As there is no out there. No more out there than images on a film strip, having an actual existence out there on the projection screen. It's a completely ridiculous assertion at this point. Not because a book said so, not because a meditating Buddhist monk said so, not because quantum mechanics says so, not because a dream spirit representing God came through the window at night and said so, but because I know so, firsthand, through non-being, detached from the illusory ego. And I wouldn't expect anyone else to believe so until their true oneself has also come to recognize itself. Oh, sage, but that's just a subjective experience. No, it isn't. But speaking of which, what else are you, may I ask, but a subjective experience? And if you can really answer this question genuinely correct, then you will know the truth about the interconnectivity of reality and the mind. Because knowing the truth has nothing to do with anything a dream character can experience. Clarity of awareness can increase, but it has nothing to do with the character. The dream character is part of the dream. In other words, lucidity isn't increased by anything the ego can do. And as I said before, besides the fact that you are not this ego, and that the ego is part of the dream, the aim of what I am pointing towards isn't about getting rid of the ego or the world. It's about dropping the attachments to ego and the world. So you see, there isn't any contradiction or exceptions. Lucidity reveals that anything the ego references in inventory is wholly illusion. And this outside awareness is facilitated because there's no attachment to illusion formed by a false identification. Whereas the common man can't accept this and fights it with every fiber in his being. But as the old saying goes, the truth can set you free. But most people still reject the truth because they want a sugar coating on it. The truth can set you free? What does that even mean? just as Pontius Pilate, the noble Roman governor, purportedly asked Jesus Christ, to which Jesus had no answer. What is truth? So, what is truth? And how can that set you free? The truth isn't anything found out there. What is truth? You are that truth, which is uncovered when we finally sever binding attachments and false identifications with the perceptibles of illusion. All right, that's enough.